What is going on, everybody? It is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlip, and I am once again joined by my partner, Alan, the Fantastic. We are here to discuss the latest AEW pay per view, AEW Revolution 2025. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the best pay per views they've done in a long time. I felt like from top to bottom, there's little things about one match in particular on the main show that we're going to discuss that wasn't great, but I felt that the show was perfectly paced. I thought every match had something good. Every match was, I think, had the right winner, and yeah, I absolutely loved this show. Alan, what was your overall thoughts before we get into the actual matches about the show?
Yeah, I agree. The matches were paced very well. Like the show flowed smoothly. And let me preface this by saying, if you are into wrestling in its pure form like this, then AEW in general, I think, is for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like that other companies who insert more storytelling stuff along with wrestling, to maybe sometimes they don't have as much wrestling as they do the storytelling. Um, you know what? That's if that's your jam, that's totally fine as well. But in overall, I think this was a very wrestling focused show that is for fans who are just want the matches. And there were 12 matches in total. I'm including the pre-show and the main card. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there was a lot here. And yeah, I agree. I think all the matches except for one were like where they hit it out of the park. The most of the results were what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's get right to it. I think it was a good, solid pay per view overall.
Yeah, and I will just to add to what you were saying. I felt like this show in particular was the culmination of multiple stories that have been going on for a while. So I think you got a good balance on this show. Um, Especially like I think three of the better matches on this show were all culminations of something, and more like four of them. Yeah, but again, we're going to talk about them. But we'll start talking about the pre-show, the 0 hour, where there was four matches that were promoted and only three that happened. One of them was turned into an angle. So we'll start off with the first match, which was just a lucha showcase. Once again, Commander and Hologram teaming up to take on the team of Lee Johnson and Blake Christian. As far as I am aware, Lee Johnson and Blake Christian have never teamed before. This
Yeah,
match.
I was like when I saw that I was like, oh, that's a random pairing, but okay.
Yeah. Uh Obviously we all know what this match was for. It was to showcase Commander and Hologram as great in-ring workers and nothing else. Um and this seems to be a theme with Commander and Hologram specifically. Um this is what they do. They just show up, have random matches, do amazing stuff, and it means nothing.
Well, I don't know if this. I mean, the way I look at it, them being showcased or getting more airtime, if you will, is not nothing. With the Lucha Brothers having moved on to WWE, it
Sure.
was very evident that they needed some. Their spot was taken. Their spot was left open. So who they wanted to fit some, put some other luchadors in there, and yeah, and good old Alex there. He needs to be the hype man for another group to Mexican
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers. So who's
Yeah.
next in line?
Yeah.
Commander Alex was already like hyping up Commander anyway
Yep.
before Penta and Phoenix left. So
Well, they ran an angle on Collision where Black. I was about to call him Black Taurus. Uh, Beast Mortos
mhm.
had oh no, Dralistico had a match with Hologram, and it turned into a brawl that also included Beast Mortos and Commander making the save. So I was surprised that we didn't like get a tag match from that. I guess they want to save that for something else. But
Hmm.
I feel like all four of these people have kind of been intertwined. This has kind of been a thing that's been discussed on the internet a lot in AEW and WWE. For some reason, all Mexican wrestlers must work with other Mexican wrestlers and nobody else. And that's what they do. They just work with other Mexican wrestlers.
So I don't know if that is just a byproduct of the partnership with CMLL or a language barrier that some have alluded to. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that plays a factor. I just would like to see these guys in storylines. I would like to see Hologram doing something else. I would like to see Beast Mortos doing something else. I would like to see Commander doing something else. I mean, Commander has had the opportunity to win championships and then just randomly lose them for no reason. But this is also, we're talking about ROH, which has absolutely no plan.
not unless they
So,
get a TV deal and actually get on like mainstream television where
yeah,
most of us, the majority of us, still watch stuff
yeah,
like this.
yeah. So I would say that if you're into just seeing some Mexican talent showcase their amazing abilities, which Hologram and Commander do every single match, Commander always does that rope walking flip. Hologram always does amazing stuff. These guys are great. And Blake Christian and Lee Johnson are great wrestlers that, again, are kind of just here to do the job, which is what their role is right now. And that's fine. But yeah, this match was fine.
Okay.
Um, the next match was a match that kind of made sense, but it didn't need to be on the pay per view. It was an 8-man tag, and it was Danny Garcia teaming with the Undisputed Kingdom, Roddy Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole to take on Shane Taylor Promotions. Um, Shane Taylor, Carly Bravo, Lee Moriarty, and Captain Sean Dean. So this match made sense because all of these people have been interacting. Danny Garcia has been teaming with FTR more recently after FTR was teaming with Adam Copeland, and then they just decided to move on to something else, which is very weird. And uh, they've all been interacting with Shane Taylor Promotions on Collision, as well as feuding with each other. Danny Garcia, FTR, and also 2.0, who has been in and out of this for some reason. I guess Angelo's probably not fully back on the road, so I don't know if that's the case or not. But I also don't know if Matt Menard just prefers to do commentary.
I think he's actually great for commentary,
Yeah,
and
he is.
like I thought he had already transitioned into the commentary role, but looks like he's still going.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
whenever he hey, they're gonna need like I'm just a bit of a side. They're gonna need more commentators. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not all of them at the same desk at the same time, but they're
Yeah,
gonna need some of these next next in line kind of people. Once people like a Jim Ross or Taz
or Tony.
eventually stops doing this. I'm not saying they'll
Yeah,
stop anytime soon. I'm just saying,
yeah.
you know,
But as far as this match goes, it was a lot of fun. All these people are very good workers. There was one spot that I didn't like, and it was there was a point where Shane Taylor Promotions had one of the guys on the other team like hanging over the apron, and Carly Bravo goes for a knee drop, and it is so obviously missed. Like there is a lot of space in between this person and Carly Bravo doing this knee drop. Like like he didn't hit anything. It was bad. But But this match otherwise was actually very good, and it actually pushed the story of Danny Garcia and Adam Cole, who seemed to be in an actual feud where they had a match recently, and it was a very good match for the TNT Championship that was interrupted by Shane Taylor Promotions. And the story at the end of this match was Adam Cole was going for the Panama Sunrise, and Daniel Garcia got a blind tag and just locked in a crossface and won the match. I think it was the sharpshooter. It was his version of the sharpshooter, the Dragon Tamer. But and he looked at Adam Cole while he was doing it, and Adam Cole just sat on the middle rope in position to do the Panama Sunrise. And then they had a stare down after the bell rang, and Danny Garcia just walked away. He did not stay in the ring to raise arms with the winners. So it seems like they're building to that rematch again, which I'm excited to see because that match was very good. And yeah, this match did what it was supposed to do, was continue the story between Daniel Garcia and the Undisputed Kingdom. And FTR and the Undisputed Kingdom are having a rematch. Kyle and Roddy are having a rematch with FTR this coming week on Collision time of recording. We're recording this on the Tuesday before Dynamite after the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So maybe I just want to interject.
I'm hoping.
Just, yeah. No. I was just gonna say, if it looks like at times I might be distracted, I have NXT Roadblock on at the same time. So that's if I notice something, you might hear me exclaim under surprise if there's some kind of a shocking moment during that show. But anyway,
well, yes, they are having Roadblock at MSG as we are speaking right now.
Yes.
So and there are some big matches on that show. So FTR and Kyle and Roddy had that tag match on Collision where there was a missed rope break, and FTR had won the match, and Dax said he didn't want to win that way, so they restarted the match. Which is stupid babyface syndrome, but it's fine. They restarted the match. It was still a hell of a match, but Dax was upset that they still lost after they restarted the match, and they did not shake hands. So they're having a rematch between those two teams. And of course, as I mentioned, we're going to build to a rematch between Danny and Adam Cole. So yeah, I thought that this match was a lot of fun and worked for where it was on the card on the 0 hour. So the next thing that happened. So also, I would like to add that there was a lot of celebrity appearances, mainly cast members of Queen of the Ring. There was also a rapper there who I had never heard of, who was apparently a horrible person.
Dude, like half the rappers that get introduced at wrestling these days, I've never heard of. I have to look them up later and figure out.
Yeah,
they're a rapper.
I had never heard of this person. His name is Young Gravy.
So I mean, I'm not ashamed to say this. I've never heard of Travis Scott before he punched Cody in the face at the Elimination Chamber.
I hear that more frequently than you would think.
I mean, that's what he's known for now. But
I hear that Travis Scott is a very late 2010s rapper that most people are probably not going to know too much about. Like, I couldn't tell you a song of his.
So I honestly, when I first heard the name Travis Scott, sorry, a bit of an aside, I thought it was Adam Levine from fucking Maroon 5. That's the face I pictured when I was like, "Oh, Travis Scott is the guy from Maroon 5." I'm like, "Oh no, that's the other guy."
I think you were probably thinking of Travis Barker,
well, maybe,
which is the drummer of Blink-182.
Oh,
but
I mean, it's possible.
So anyway, yeah, there was this guy, Young Gravy, on the pre-show. Nobody. I had no idea who this person was. Apparently, he's known for stealing music and not getting permission from people. And then there was the cast, or some of the cast, and the director of Queen of the Ring. They appeared multiple times on the show, on the pre-show and the pay-per-view. And one of them in particular, uh, I can't remember her full name. I know her
Her
first
name
name
is
is
Damaris Lewis.
Damaris Lewis.
Yes,
Yes.
she is. She's a former Sports Illustrated swimsuit model from
Yes.
2009 to 2011. Also played the I guess the supervillain Blackfire on the HBO Max superhero series Titans.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, all the other shit, I don't know what she's. I have no idea. I remember seeing her years ago, and
Uh-huh.
I'm just thinking, did I see her in Sports Illustrated, or is there something else? But
Yeah.
to your point, I think what you're going to talk about is way more interesting than her modeling career.
So she uh said this twice on the show. Once on the pre-show and then once right before the main event.
Yep.
They interviewed her and one of the other cast members, who is actually one of the cast members from Heels as well. So she actually has other wrestling experience. Um, but this other, the Damaris Davis, she was quoted as saying, I tried to pull up the actual quote, but I couldn't find it in writing.
Okay, I
But
think I remember it. So first of all,
she said
Damaris Lewis, she
Lewis,
got a
sorry.
role in Queen of the Ring. She played a wrestler named Babs Wingo, and what she said. Now I just remember the quote she said during before the main event. But what she said was, "One thing I learned from you professional wrestlers, you already know you're gonna win." So it came off sounding
She
like
she
that's the
said,
one thing she picked out of
yeah, she
pro
said
wrestling.
you all know you're going to win before everybody else does.
Right, that's it. That's the line.
That's what she said. And a lot of people took that as her saying, "You all are know that you're fake wrestling."
Right, but that's not what she said. And frankly, at first glance, if you listen to it, it does people. I can understand why people react to that because it sounded like she was giving
Yes.
away or she broke kayfabe or whatever.
Yes.
I can only imagine Jim Cornette taking time off from imagining strangling Vince Russo to hate on this. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I really like what Camille did. Camille also has
Yes.
a role in Queen of the Ring. So she took
Yes.
3 minutes of her time to post a thing explaining that what Damaris actually meant was what she learned from pro wrestling was that, everybody has a winner's mentality. They have a winning mindset.
Mhm.
They're gonna win no matter. I guess the what she was trying to say is they know they're gonna win no matter whether the match's outcome, is either they're the winner or the loser. They know they have a winning mindset to go
Yes.
in there. They give 110%.
Yeah.
That's the what she was trying to say.
Yes, that was Camille's
Right,
explanation, and
right.
I get where she's coming from. I guess she just worded it. Damaris Lewis just worded it horribly.
Mhm. Well, yeah,
uh,
and another thing, like when you're giving like just a few seconds of time on live, like on a live broadcast to like give your thoughts
yes.
on something, it's sometimes you just have a slip of the tongue, or the words you want to use don't come out the way you
Yeah.
want. So there's
So
that.
yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because that was in the news, and so the next quote unquote match, which was not ended up not happening because it was supposed to be a ROH championship match between Chris Jericho and Gravity, the brother of Bandito, who has not been seen in AEW in quite some time. He's been appearing on ROH, I guess, a little more regularly because of this feud between Bandito and Jericho is for the ROH title, and they've actually been having the ROH champion on ROH. Crazy concept, I know. But yeah, so they just decided that Brandito lost to Jericho, so let his brother get a shot at Jericho for no reason at all. And Jericho took it upon himself. So Gravity makes his entrance, and greets his mother and sister, who are sitting front row. And apparently, there was a report that his mother is unaware of wrestling not storylines not being real.
Oh dear.
So she thinks everything that's happening is really happening.
Oh my goodness.
So Jericho, Brian Keith, and Big Bill come out together and beat the shit out of Gravity. Like, legitimately, with a bat and just like punching and kicking him a whole bunch. Now, when you see this, you would think, like, oh, okay, Bandito's going to make the save and they're just going to give Bandito a rematch right then and there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did not do that.
Okay.
Instead, they had Bandito run out to make the save, but it was it didn't work out the way he had hoped. And they beat the shit out of him and then made him watch while Jericho removed Gravity's mask. And then beat the shit out of Gravity while he was covering his face because he couldn't protect himself because he was covering his face.
Right.
And then, for some reason, out of the corner of the camera goes back to look at the mother and the daughter, and they're no longer there. because Aubrey Edwards helps them get in the ring to cover him while Bandito is doing the exact same thing.
Wait. Aubrey, the referee, helps two innocent bystanders get in a ring to protect a wrestler from being beaten up by three grown-ass men.
Yes, this happened.
I gotta go back and watch this. This sounds so stupid.
So the mother and the sister get in the ring while Bandito is covering his brother, and the mother and the sister also cover the brother, and then Jericho looks at them menacingly while holding the bat and is thinking about hitting them with the bat while they are covering Gravity.
Oh my god.
And instead, he just slaps Bandito one more time and then walks away. And obviously, this is setting up for Bandito to face Jericho again and probably beat him, even though he should have did that the first time. But I hated this. A lot of people are saying that this angle did its job. I don't care. This was bad. This was
well,
really
from the
bad.
way you described the part where the women were being led into the ring by another woman to get between one grown-ass man getting his ass kicked by three other grown-ass men, that just sounds like, why would you even put that in there? It's
exactly.
like,
yeah.
I mean, just leave the mother and the daughter outside, crying hysterically. But by the way, you said they didn't realize that this was a scripted event, and so
well, that's what I heard in a report. That apparently the mother is unaware that wrestling is scripted.
Okay.
That I don't know if that's 100% true
So
or
that
not.
that makes me very concerned when she's being led in the ring, thinking this whole thing is real.
Yeah.
It's just okay. Oh my god.
So, all in all, I get why they did this angle, but you could have did this on Collision. You could have did this on ROH. You could have just not did this at all. So yeah. That happened. Then we get to the final match of the 0 Hour, which was supposed to be a lot of fun. I mean, it was for what happens. It is supposed to be a lot of fun because you got all these personalities in here that are great workers. So it's Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe teaming with Big Boom AJ, of course, of Costco.
The Costco guys. I believe it was announced
fame.
I believe it was announced Big Boom AJ was signed a contract with AEW, apparently.
Well, so has his son and the Rizzler.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All three of them. All three of them. So
oh man.
first Orange Cassidy comes out
Yeah.
and he does the come on, thing, and he's
Well,
waving.
okay, wait. Technically speaking, MXM were the first ones to come out.
Yes,
I
they came
think.
out first, but
Right.
they just did their
And Johnny TV and with Taya Valkyrie. Yeah.
They just did their shtick and went to the
Yep.
ring.
And then Orange Cassidy comes out.
So
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy comes out and he goes like this, and
Yeah.
the Rizzler comes out dressed like Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
And then Mark Briscoe comes out, and then Big Boom AJ comes out. And he's still wearing the same gear that he's been wearing. He's just got blue tights with cookies on them.
Well, yeah, because he hadn't wrestled for 20 years. Like he only has one set of tights at this point.
Yes. So then they have this match, and it's fine for what it is. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a funny little thing with some people that are.
It was a funny match,
Yeah. There was a point.
I like the part where Mansoor and Madden were posing, or they were running the ropes. It looks like they were going to do something, and then they just stopped, and then they just posed. They just did their version of the 5-second pose with the camera, and then out of nowhere, Orange just sneaks in the middle and just does his thumbs up. It just completely ruins the shot.
Yeah. There was a point during the match where they put the camera on the Rizzler and Big Justice sitting at ringside, and they were just eating cookies while watching the match. And Mansoor took it upon himself to take the cookie from Big Justice and throw it on the floor. And then Orange Cassidy went out there, picked up the cookie that was on the floor, and shoved it in Mansoor's mouth.
At which point Mansoor was horrified because he's on a diet.
Yes.
Also, several segments of Johnny TV and Taya, who are married in real life, making out in front of the camera, while at one point they were playing tonsil hockey very aggressively, while Mansoor and Madden were just stomping on doors.
Yes, and commentary was very perplexed by this because they were confused about how they were kissing. Because
this is how they do it in LA.
Yes. So then there was a point where during the match, there's just a bunch of things happening and referees getting distracted. And at one point, I believe it was Madden who had Big Boom AJ in the corner, and Big Justice just runs in the ring and gives him a power bomb.
No, that was Mansoor. Did you say Madden? There's no way. Mansoor was a smaller guy.
I thought it was Madden.
No, Madden's a taller black dude.
I know Madden's the taller one.
But he was not the one who took a power bomb. Like, realistically speaking, physically, it was Mansoor because he was the only one that looked that if the kid, I'm going to just call him the kid at this point, gave the power bomb, it would look realistic enough.
Okay, I just forgot which one it was, honestly. That's my fault. But not who it was. I know who is who. I just forgot who took the power bomb.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does a power bomb, and his dad, Big Boom AJ, just is so happy that his kid did a power bomb. And there was a point where they kept putting the camera back on the Rizzler, and he went out of gimmick and was very surprised that certain things were happening. And then he realized the camera was on him, and then he went back to the gimmick.
Well, that's why he signed a contract. You gotta be on camera 90%.
I'm not holding that against him because he's 7.
Yeah, we're talking about a 7-year-old child. Anyway,
it was just funny.
Match.
It was just funny. It was just funny.
No, this whole match was just jokes all around. AJ got a good rally. He was at one point he was beating down the 3 guys at once, and he piled them all in the corner, and then he squashed them all in the corner.
Yeah, he did a running splash, an avalanche.
Yeah.
And they won the match when he did a power bomb.
Triple power bomb on. Oh wait, hold on. Let me try.
Yeah, they did a shield bomb.
Yeah, that was after, but I just remembered how the finish was. I think it was Madden that took the pin. Yeah, that's right. So after the match, one thing I also forgot, Taya Valkyrie was interjecting herself in the match, and then out of nowhere, Harley Cameron comes out and starts going off on Taya. They've been feuding also with Harley's been feuding with Diana and Taya
Yeah,
on Collision mostly, I think. So
and you just reminded me of something with Harley that I'll discuss after.
and
Um,
then after
um,
this match is over, they're all celebrating the ring, and then I guess I guess this is another
Adam
storyline.
Adam Devine and one of his co-stars from Righteous Gemstones just get in the ring for no
Okay,
reason
no,
at
no, no, no,
all.
no, no. This happened after. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, Lance Archer and freaking Brian Cage
Oh
started
yeah,
surrounding the ring, and it looks like they're going to jump the conglomeration. And then you hear Powerhouse Hobbs' music comes out. Hobbs comes out decked out completely in a Lakers jersey because hometown
yeah.
crowd, right? And then goes in the ring. Um, Everybody else backs out except I guess Mansoor or
Yeah,
Madden. I can't remember who, but somebody got a
yeah.
spine buster from
One of them got a
Hobbs.
spine buster, and
And
everybody
then
else
that
ran
that
away.
led to I think the triple power bomb from AJ
Yes,
Orange and
and
Mark.
then
The
two
guys from the Righteous
two
Gemstones.
guys from Righteous Gemstones, Adam Devine and one other guy whose name is escaping me right now,
Yeah.
just get in the ring and give Mansoor a double choke slam for no
Well,
reason at
the
all.
guy whose name escapes you at the moment, I don't know him either, but all I remember was the shirt he was wearing. Apparently
Oh
it just says,
yes,
remember when RoboCop shot that guy in the dick?
yes, that was very funny.
And then
Um,
they all put some sunglasses and do a pose down with Orange after. It's just like, oh, okay, this is hilarious. Because I
well,
missed this match, right? I only saw like the backstage clip, so I was wondering with myself, why is Orange and his team there with Harley and Powerhouse Hobbs in a Lakers
uh,
jersey?
so this
So
man,
that explains it.
his co-star's name is Toni Cavallero.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, so after this, you just have this cavalcade of characters in the ring. Will Hobbs, Big Boom AJ and his kid, the Rizzler, Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and then Adam Devine and Tony Cavallero just chilling. It was so weird, but it was hilarious, and it was fine for what it was supposed to be, which was to get the crowd happy before the pay-per-view, which is fine. I get it. It's not necessarily all for me, but I get it. So the other thing I wanted to mention was and I mentioned this to you off air to tell you about it. Paul Walter Hauser was on the pre-show panel. And at one point, Harley Cameron was on the pre-show panel to talk about probably the women's matches. And for some reason, she brings on QT Marshall. And QT Marshall essentially is brought on to talk about Big Boom AJ because he was in his first match in AEW and they have a history and all that. And he went on to say, like, oh yeah, this was like a big thing that I helped get going and whatever. And he's like, but honestly, I wish that celebrities would just have one match and go away. So Paul Walter Hauser obviously did not like this because Paul Walter Hauser has been wrestling pretty regularly on the independents. And he essentially interjected and was like, well, we don't say that about you when you come into our domain in acting, so why would you say that about us? And QT Marshall essentially was like, oh yeah, you think you're so tough? Let's see you lock up. So they do a lockup in the middle of the panel.
Okay.
And everybody else is like, oh wow, Paul, that was pretty impressive. You're pretty good at that. You put it on pretty tight. And QT Marshall was like, you know what, you are pretty good. And then he just throws his drink at Paul Walter Hauser and then walks away.
Okay.
So it's very clear that we are going to get Paul Walter Hauser versus QT Marshall at some point. Because that's what QT Marshall does now. He just does these random matches with random celebrities.
Sure.
So that was everything that happened on the pre-show. Let's get into the main show, and we kicked off with one of the best matches on the card. It was MJF versus Adam Hangman Page. Now, you were out doing
Yeah.
things and got home right as this match was reaching its culmination.
Yes.
But there was a lot in this match, and it was so good. It was a lot of back and forth action, a lot of trading of moves and stuff. And there was a few big moments in this match that were crazy. So at one point they were fighting outside of the ring, and I'm pretty sure you saw a replay of this later. But there was a chair that was set up like unfolded, like, and MJF has Hangman in a tombstone position, and he runs towards the chair and jumps on it while in a tombstone position. This was absolutely crazy. Like, I don't know how Hangman didn't break his neck on this. It was one of the craziest spots I had seen in a while because nobody's ever done that. Tombstone somebody on a chair that was unfolded. Like, that's crazy. And yeah, just a lot of great stuff in this match. I highly recommend it. I'm going to say this a lot because a lot of these matches were really good. But I was very surprised by the ending because I thought that MJF was going to win this one. And unfortunately, he did not. Adam Hangman Page beats MJF pretty clean. And yeah, this was a hell of a match that was built on the fact that MJF was jealous of Hangman basically getting the spot that he wants and doesn't understand why Adam Hangman Page gets praised when he burns down somebody's house. And when MJF does something similar, he gets booed and people hate him. So, in response to that, on the last Dynamite before this show, he tried to set Adam Hangman Page on fire and was carried away by like 30 security guards. So I don't think that this feud is over. I think this is going to go into probably Dynasty because that's our next pay-per-view in
Yeah.
April.
So what I noticed is that the last couple of major matches MJF has had, he's either lost or he snuck in a win, but then afterwards got his ass laid out in the ring. So I
Yeah.
think he technically did beat Danny Garcia back at, I think it was Full Gear or something. I don't know.
Yep.
But then afterwards, Danny hit him with a top rope pile driver, and then basically,
yeah,
supposedly took him out for a few weeks.
Well, that was to do an angle because
he
needed to leave to film something.
Right, that was it. But it's like a bit of a trend. It's like, MJF is like, he's still the guy that he is. He hasn't changed. It's just that he's been on a bit of a losing streak lately.
Well, as far as singles matches, he hasn't lost a lot of singles matches.
But it's like I'm talking about like major matches on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's been happening. So, and let's be honest, like MJF has never been like he was like when he was AEW World Champion. Sure, that was probably one of the best runs he's had by himself. But I think we're trending back towards that point where I think he needs to find some friends again. And not the Adam Cole kind of friend where it's somebody that he doesn't know from his past. I'm thinking of someone he does know from his past that they need to bring in. And hey, the next pay-per-view is going to be called Dynasty. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do something there.
Yeah. I would love that because I love everybody in that group. We'll see what happens, but I was just looking at so MJF only has 4 singles losses in the last 3 years. One was against Wardlow, and Wardlow squashed him that one time. And the others was this Hangman match, the Samoa Joe title match, and the Will Ospreay All-In match. That's it. He's
Right.
only had 3 singles losses in 3 years.
Hmm.
4, technically 4.
Hmm.
So I don't know what they're like. What the plan is. Obviously, he's been talking about wanting the world title again. There's a lot of people that have been talking about wanting the world title
Yep.
again.
Yep.
So, but this feud is probably going to continue, and I'd love to see another match between these two because they absolutely killed it, and I love that they finally got to get a real feud between these two because before this, their only singles match was the finals of the very first Dynamite Diamond Ring tournament,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. MJF is going to have a live mic on the upcoming Dynamite, so we'll see what that entails. Uh, yeah, so the next match on the card is a match that I was very much looking forward to, and it did not disappoint. It was for the AEW TBS Championship. It was Mercedes Moné defending against Momo Watanabe. So Momo earned this title opportunity when she won the Dynasty the what was it, the Wrestle Dynasty Cup
Right.
and she earned the opportunity to challenge for any championship across AEW, New Japan, Stardom, and CMLL. And she chose the TBS Championship because she has a history with Mercedes and wanted to get her win back. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Mercedes won once again, and her stretch of great matches ever since she's really been on this hot streak of these great matches, it has not stopped. She keeps having these hot matches, these great matches, because she is absolutely killing it. And she went and did all the work to tell the story for this match because Momo did not make a lot of appearances on the way here. She made maybe 2 appearances on the way here. She she showed up at the last pay-per-view to talk about challenging for that belt, and then she showed up once um, after Mercedes has been having uh, run-ins with Billy Starks, and that's it. And then she had one match on Collision against Serena Deeb. So Mercedes has been doing all the work to build to this, and she did a hell of a job. She's great at that. And yeah, this match was a lot of fun. They have great chemistry. Mercedes loves working these types of matches. You can tell that she really enjoys the Joshi style. She really enjoys any kind of style really that she can work. Um, but yeah, this match, Momo apparently hurt her ankle during the match, but I forget what the spot was where it happened. But yeah, there was a lot of she did the moneymaker in this match to win it. Well, she did it first, and then she locked in the submission after. But this was not one of the better moneymakers. Some people take it really well. Some people don't take it very well. She
Mm.
has to know who to hit it on. I would think that Momo would be one of the people that would take it very well, but that was not a great one. But as far as the match goes, it was very good. What were your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought they did very well for a match that involved like one person that I didn't really know much about because I don't really watch Stardom or New Japan that often.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing I was thinking about in the back of my mind was like, who's coming out after the match is over to stare down Mercedes to be her next challenger, and it was nobody. So I don't know where to go with that.
Well, as I mentioned, she's been having these run-ins with Billy Starks, and Billy Starks was shown in the crowd taking notes,
Okay, so I may
presumably.
have missed that because it might have been so brief that they just glanced by
Yeah,
it.
so this was after the match
Oh,
during Mercedes' celebration. Um, Billy Starks was shown in the crowd in the rafters, taking notes for
Okay, in the rafters.
this
Okay.
match. Well,
Okay.
not like the Sting rafters, just like where they,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, but but I don't know. Like I had the show on the full time. There was no interruption, so I may have
yeah,
missed it. But if you
yeah.
bring,
It was very brief. It was
yeah,
very.
very
So
brief.
it seems like they are building to Athena versus Mercedes for maybe for All In.
Mm.
Uh, that
I
would be
mean,
the
we've
match
been talking about Athena for years now. At this point, she's what? She's been like ROH Women's Champion forever.
for
They
over
haven't.
800 days.
How is it that Billy Starks made it on AEW television before Athena?
And this has kind of been a common topic of how Athena is the only one in ROH that has been consistently killing it, and also the only one that's never on AEW TV.
That's just so funny. That is like, what? How did that happen?
Like, Lee Moriarty never defends the pure belt, and he's never on ROH. Jericho is on ROH more frequently. I mean, I don't watch ROH anymore. I don't have the subscription anymore, so I don't go out of my way to watch it. But because it's just not worth it. It's just all squash matches. So yeah, Athena. It's so odd that she's still the ROH champion, and like I get that they want her to have this monster reign, but like, when does it end? And like, how does it end? And I don't want like her to face Mercedes and it be title for title, because I don't want Mercedes to win another belt. She's already got 4 of them. Well, technically 3, because 2 of them are uh, unified. But yeah,
Yeah, her reign is currently 823 days. Like she's heading into Roman Reigns territory of this.
yeah. Um, I thought Billy Starks was going to beat her in the rematch. That didn't happen, and nobody has stepped up since. So it's like, what are we just waiting to get to Mercedes?
Like what I don't want him to do is have her just vacate it because she thinks she'll move on to something better. I'm like, no, are
Yeah,
you kidding? You're hitting 1,000 days as champion. You really just want
yeah.
that's
I
dumb.
don't like that. I know WWE did that with Asuka because they didn't want her to lose before going to the main roster, but I don't want them to do that. I want somebody meaningful to beat her. That's
Yeah.
the whole point of a reign
Right.
like this.
Exactly.
So I I don't want Mercedes to have another belt.
Yeah, I think she's running out of space to put the belt on herself because there's like 4
Yeah.
belts on her now, right?
So it seems like that's where they're going. Obviously, if it's for All In, we're gonna continue to build to it slowly because All In is in July and we're in
Yeah.
March. So we'll see what happens. But I love this match. Mercedes has absolutely been killing it. Every match she's been having in the last like 5 months has been killer. Um, so she's going to continue to just kill it in the ring, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see where she goes from here. The next match on the card is one of the matches that I was looking forward to the most. It was the number 1 contenders match, Ricochet versus Swerve Strickland. Now, this story was kind of happened out of nowhere because Swerve was in the middle of feuding with the Hurt Syndicate. And then the Hurt Syndicate got over.
Yeah.
So they were like, all right, time to pivot because we don't need to. I mean, I don't know if you could call the Hurt Syndicate baby faces, but they're so over that they might as well be.
Yeah. True.
So they were just like, all right, time to pivot. And Ricochet comes in with this like nerdy, like homicidal Kurt Angle character, like Kurt Angle from the 2000s.
Yeah. Accompanied by a stupid laugh. So
Yeah. Um, and of course, they had that moment where Swerve got the entire crowd to throw toilet paper at him. So in retaliation, he attacked him with scissors because scissors beats paper,
yeah.
obviously. Um, and took him out for a while. Uh, and Then he returned, and they had the first match on a Dynamite. It was pretty good. It was a great match as well. That Ricochet won, and then he stole the coveted embassy robe that for some reason was around during this time. And every single time that he would like show it off, and you could see like the disdain on Nana's face, like because that means a lot to him.
Right.
And
It's a sentimental value. I mean, it was I think it was that guy Jimmy Rave that first
yes,
wore it, and
yes, Jimmy Rave was the original person who wore that robe in the embassy, and it's been passed down to multiple members in the embassy, most recently to Swerve.
yes,
And um, Ricochet stole it, and there was a point where like Swerve wasn't even on the show, and Nana had a promo with Ricochet and was just like pleading with him, like, just give it
yeah,
back to me. Like you don't understand what this thing means to me. Can I just have it back? Like like not even like setting him up for anything. He was just like being very serious and telling him like, come on, like you've had things that have meant that much to you. Like I need this back. And of course, Ricochet didn't give it back to him. And then Swerve returned. And when he returned, they had the contract signing for this match. And Nana essentially told Swerve that if Swerve doesn't win and get the robe back, that they're done because he can't forgive him for not getting the robe back.
hmm.
Um, and then they had this match, which I just loved. And it,
So before we continue, I like the fact that they made this a number one contenders match.
oh, I
You
agree.
know, I didn't realize they did it until like I looked up the pay per view and like or when the match started, I was like, oh, it's a number one contenders match, and then I realized, this makes sense. I mean, this feud has been so built up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and both have legitimate claims to an eventual title shot. I mean, Ricochet has done solid work since coming to AEW, and Swerve is the former AEW World Champion. So why not put some additional stakes on this besides the robe? So
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah, because and I wouldn't have liked it if it was just the culmination of this was just getting the robe back.
yeah, we've been
I would understand it, but adding that extra element of the number one contendership really drove home how important this match was. And yeah, they absolutely killed it once again, and it's not surprising with how good Swerve is and how good Ricochet is. They have so much chemistry from working with each other for 15 plus years, going back to Lucha Underground and even before that. And yeah, not surprised by the winner at all. It's very clear that Swerve is like the ace of AEW right now. He is the guy that people are here to see. He's the guy that they want to see in the world title picture. And yeah, and we'll have more to say about him later. But after the match, they basically, well, during the match, Nana got the robe back because Ricochet had to put it down to wrestle,
yeah.
and Ricochet saw this and then took it back.
At that point, I was watching. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
do we need to? We don't need to prolong this exchange. Can we just move? Can we just?
Yeah.
I think one of them put the rope on at some point. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Nana did.
Nana put the rope on, and then Ricochet
Yeah.
took it off of him again, and then like
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think the Ricochet
So
did put the rope on himself during the
yeah.
match. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
After he took it back.
right,
So yeah, they had this great match, and after it, Ricochet got the robe taken away from him again, and Swerve beaten and just presented it to Nana, and then collapsed almost.
yeah,
Uh, but Nana was very grateful. But there was actually a point during the match where Nana got upset and left.
Yeah,
That
no, that's
that
true. Right.
that was the point where he came back to take the rope. He did that as a diversion.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so Swerve presents the robe to Nana, and now they got their friendship is still intact, and everything is fine because Nana has the robe back, and now Swerve is the number one contender, and Ricochet, I assume, will still have title aspirations. It just won't be the world title. I
For
would,
now, he has to
I
move on to something else.
I would absolutely love to see him against Kenny.
So I was thinking that too. I just realized, we'll get into that later, but yeah,
Yes,
that will be
yes,
something that we could potentially see.
yes. So we'll discuss that a little later. But yes, this was one of my matches of the night for sure. I mean, there were so many good ones. It was hard to even pick like a top three because there were so many that were so good. But this is one of them for me for sure. The next match. So this match was very good as well. But if I had to pick any matches on the main card, the next two did not need to be on the pay per view. You could have did both of these next two matches on a Collision or on a Dynamite, and I don't hate either of them. I thought they were actually very good because they did their jobs. But the next match in particular is the Continental Championship match. Kazuchika Okada defending against Brody King. And I thought this match was very good. And I think that these guys had pretty good chemistry in there. It's just, for some reason, it didn't feel like a pay per view match. And that's fine. Um, this Continental title run for Okada has been fine. It's just not it's not Tokyo Dome Okada. And that's okay. I think we're going to get there when we get to him eventually facing Kenny. But this Okada has been fine. And this was off of him having a match with Buddy Matthews at Grand Slam Australia. And they just ran into each other in the hallway, and Brody King got in his face, essentially, and then they just made this match. But yeah, it was good for what it was. I mean, Okada is very good at adapting to who his opponent is. Especially somebody like Brody King, who's very big. He didn't face a lot of people like Brody King in New Japan. Everybody in New Japan was kind of very similar stature, very similar style to his. So it's cool to see Okada in matches like this and him figuring out ways to adapt to what he has to do against guys like Brody King. And Brody King is great. Brody King is probably one of the best big men wrestlers in the world today, for sure. And yeah, I thought this match was serviceable. What did you think of this match?
It was solid. I mean, I was like juggling with the idea that maybe Brody will actually go over on this one, but I was like, oh wait, you explained to me the long term thing that might be happening with this title,
Yes.
so yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. And I think in terms of just their character development, the Brody, Buddy Matthews, and Julia Hart, they're sort of in this rebuilding process.
The
Now that
Hounds of
they've
Hell.
Hounds of Hell, now that Malachi Black is gone, they're no longer the
Yes.
House of Black. Uh, but anyway, it was a solid match, I mean, but I'm kind of just getting a little bit tired of this sort of version of Okada. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was supposed to be like the heel elite Okada, but the
Yeah.
elite is gone basically from the show.
Yep.
Jack Perry's gone, the Young Bucks are gone. It's really just him left there now. So I don't know how much longer he can play this character where he's just like calling everyone a bitch and like
Yeah,
flipping everybody the bird when he's doing the Rainmaker pose.
yeah,
It's
it's getting tired.
I'm not really like really
Yeah,
feeling that invested in it, to be honest.
it's getting tired, and right now, nothing that Okada is doing is feeling important, and everything that he does should feel important because
Yeah,
he's Okada,
right.
and right now it just doesn't. Because I guess they're just spinning their wheels right now so that they can get to the thing that we're going to talk about later. Um, but yeah, and the next match. All
The other
right,
match you said that didn't really need to be on this pay per view.
yes, is the World Tag Team Championship match. The Hurt Syndicate defending against the Outrunners.
The
Now,
youngest men alive, Truth, Magnum, and
it was
Turbo Boy.
so it was very weird that in the build to this pay-per-view, it seemed like they were building to the murder machines facing the Hurt Syndicate. And then for no reason at all, the Outrunners just beat them because of a music distraction, which is so stupid. Like Lance Archer should not be getting distracted by music and then just getting rolled up. It's like very
That sounds
sports.
very silly if that's what happened because I didn't see it, but that
That is
sounds
what
very
happened.
silly.
So they essentially said it was a number one contenders match,
Okay.
and what happened was the Hurt Syndicate came out or played their music and then came out, and the Outrunners scored a roll up win.
Hmm.
So it was like, oh, okay, well, you can't beat those guys, so why are we going to challenge you? So then they just gave the title shot to the Outrunners. And then the murder machines just did something else, which was very weird. Um, but this match was too long. uh,
Or it shouldn't have been as long as it was.
and that again, that's also fine.
Right.
I'm not saying that this is a bad match. I just felt that the Outrunners have not proven themselves as somebody who can hang with the Hurt Syndicate.
Right. It's a very big mismatch. Like nothing against the Outrunners. They're great.
No, yeah,
They've
they're
got
great
great Riz.
characters.
They've got great Riz, great characters.
Yeah, yeah,
People really caught on. Like I think the cheers they get were grown organically.
yep.
But against the monsters of Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, I'm not. No,
I mean,
I mean MVP himself as a challenge enough with that cane of his. So I'm like,
so this was the shortest match on the main card, but it was almost 9 minutes long. It was
9 minutes.
it was 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
Right.
I would have shaved like 6 minutes off of that. And that's not, and I'm not even saying that to like as a joke. Like,
Oh man.
I feel like the Hurt Syndicate should have established that yes, the Outrunners are good, but they're not good in the sense that they were ready for this. Like, because Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, despite their age of both almost being 50, are absolute monsters.
That is true.
Like, Shelton Benjamin looks like a giant in AEW.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
like I love both these guys. They're great. But I understand giving the Outrunners some offense is like okay because you're on a pay-per-view match and they've been able to hang with like you know uh other teams that are not as prominent as the Hurt Syndicate, but they haven't proven themselves against like FTR or like even you know they haven't proven the Young Bucks. They haven't proven themselves. They've just gotten fluke wins here and there.
If I had to rationalize this, I feel like they had this match to sort of establish some credentials that they can, hang as long as they did with the AEW World Tag Team Champions because maybe down the road,
Yeah,
perhaps like in ROH, maybe they'll become the tag team champions in ROH. Uh,
Or
I
there'll
would
be the
rather see him.
catalyst for an FTR heel turn, which
Yeah, that is that's also a possibility. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, the Hurt Syndicate wins this match. There was a point during the match where MVP like got legitimately angry that this match was going on as long as it was. He was like, "They're embarrassing you right now. Get in there and destroy them."
This should have been
And
over. This should have been over 6 minutes ago.
yeah. So after that, they were kind of just like turning it on and kicking the shit out of the Outrunners to the point where Bobby Lashley just speared everyone. Shelton hit that amazing jumping knee in the corner on both
Let me ask you
guys.
a question on the topic of spears, which I believe has been a lot. What do you think
Yes.
of Bobby Lashley's spear? Because from the couple of times I've seen it, it's sort of resembling Moose's.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna get at.
Speaking of Moose, I'm watching him right now and Oba Femi beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I am eventually going to watch that show.
Yeah. Anyway,
Because I do want to see that match in
yeah, but
particular.
but but you always
But
you've had a thing about spears and like saying that
well,
only two guys should be doing it.
there's two people in wrestling right now that should be doing spears, and that's Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker. Nobody else. I even in AEW, because there's nobody in AEW right now who does a spear that has a good one.
Even like Cope or Christian or
No, I mean even Cope has never really had a great spear. He's always kind of just done it because he always did.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't like Bobby Lashley's spear. As you said, it's very similar to Moose's spear, and I think his spear is the worst spear in wrestling. Like, why does he have to do a front flip with it? It
Yeah,
looks
so that is the thing that always makes it look very odd, like the whole front flip. It's almost like he didn't hit him at all.
yeah, that's why I hate it. And yeah, Bobby Lashley does something very similar, and I wish that he would not
Yeah.
do that. Ricky Saints should not be doing a spear. Uh, so yeah, I would prefer him to do the Hurt Lock and then something else like a power bomb or something. Like do something that showcases your power. Like I get that you're doing the spear to showcase your speed and agility, but like I don't know. Do something else. I mean I get that he's not going to do the Dominator anymore because that's kind of a dangerous move if you don't know how to take it. But like I don't just do something
Well,
else.
yeah, he can do the Hurt Lock. It's a submission hold, so I don't know why they don't gravitate towards that.
Yeah, but I think the Hurt Lock should be a thing that he doesn't do every single match. Like I said, he should do like a power bomb or something, or a power slam, or something along those lines that utilizes his power but also showcases his speed at the same time. But yeah, we'll see what happens next for the Hurt Syndicate. I don't know who is even. So during this match, the team that I will continue to call Rush to Action because I don't care for what their actual team name is, was watching the match. Now, how am I supposed to believe that they could stand a shot against the Hurt Syndicate if Private Party couldn't? They're
Yeah.
they're smaller than Private Party. Both
Yep.
of them. Very smaller. So how am I supposed to believe that they could stand a shot? So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen next for the tag titles, but I assume they're gonna go back to the Murder Machines. But the Murder Machines gotta win some matches.
Right. And not get distracted by music.
Yes. Preferably, yes. So yeah, could have did these last two matches on Dynamite or Collision for sure to save some time. All right, match of the night time. We are at the match that should have been the main event.
Yeah, I would say this is a match of the year candidate.
Oh, absolutely. This is 100% a match of the year candidate. And of course, we are talking about the Hollywood ending, the final showdown between Toni Storm, timeless Toni Storm, and Mariah May. Of course, we all know the story at this point. They've been building this for a year and like what seems like a year and a half since Mariah May's debut. It was, I want to meet Toni Storm. I want to be just like Toni Storm. Everybody knows the story by now. The twists, the turns, the everything.
Yeah.
And this was the culmination of that. Now, going into this match, we didn't know what a Hollywood ending match was going to be. It turns out it was just a falls count anywhere match, with a different name. But they did so much in this match that made it seem like we were watching a movie happening in the ring. And like Toni got bloody like right away, like literally very early. They're just doing everything on tables and hitting each other with
So at one
weapons.
point, funny thing was at one point Luther was like knocked down by Mariah May over a table, and he
Yes.
disappeared. And I
Yes.
actually had some crazy thought: hey, what if Luther just reverted back to his old Doctor Luther stage, and then just
Yeah.
emerged with his third eye on his forehead or something?
Yeah. Like
I was like,
yeah.
but I was like, no, that's a little bit much. I think there's enough
he
storytelling going on.
he hits his head and remembers his hardcore past.
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, this match was extremely bloody. I think at one point there was a moment when maybe I think it was Toni that realized, oh shit, I cut myself way too much.
Oh yeah,
I'm
she
bleeding
had
like
a
stuck
lot
pig.
of blood on her face.
Yeah, I think somebody may have cut a little bit too deeply there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was that shot where she's just laying on the canvas, covered in blood and shit and glass, and I'm just like, wow,
she had blood all over her body.
Yeah,
like,
that was just
it was everywhere.
horrendous.
That's how much she was bleeding, and eventually Mariah was also bleeding, and they were just absolutely. And at one point, they both had buckets of broken glass.
Yeah, so they start taping their hands,
They
and
start
then Mariah's
taping
just
their
like,
hands.
Mariah doesn't know what to do about this because she's never done this before. She's like, am I taping this right? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right now?
And then they put their hands in the broken glass, and Mariah like screams when she puts her hand in the glass. And
yeah, because that shit hurts, right?
Of course. And they're just trading shots and ducking with fists of broken glass. Taped fists of broken glass. This absolutely ruled. I loved it. That was probably my favorite spot of the entire match. And it's very well documented that my favorite style of wrestling is the technical style, but I love hardcore also, especially when it has a big story like this. I'm a big GCW fan, and this absolutely ruled. Eventually they were trading finishers. They were hitting Storm Zeros on each other. People were kicking out. They make their way back up the ramp, and there's like a table that says Hollywood ending on it. And Mariah, a story element that I forgot was Toni Storm brings out the shoe that Mariah used to attack her when she originally turned on her.
Yeah,
and it had the blood all over the heel and everything. And she used that as a weapon on Mariah on the ramp, and to set up the finish where she does a Storm Zero through a table, akin to Cactus Jack hitting that pile driver on Triple H in 1997 on the stage, and wins the match. The Hollywood ending is over. And on the screen, they show the end on the screen.
Right.
And
okay. Yeah. You talk about the finish, like she power driver through the table that was set out with the Hollywood sign on it. Yeah.
Yep.
And then basically the end was the end showed up. It was like a movie, right? And basically it ended with
Yeah,
Tony hugging Mariah and
yeah, and
just
looking at her
like like
we
goodbye, my friend, kind of thing.
yeah, like, oh, we did it. We got our ending,
Yeah,
and we'll remember this forever. And
yeah.
um, this absolutely should have been the main event. Um, this was the biggest story on the show. This was the biggest build on the show. This was everything. And as you mentioned at the top of this, this is 100% a match of the year candidate, and will probably stay on my list all year until we get to the point in December where we pick our matches of the year. This is going to stay on the list. This is a hell of a match. I absolutely love it. I love Mariah May. I love Toni Storm. Nobody has transitioned better to leaving WWE and coming here than Toni Storm. Nobody. Toni Storm has turned into a once in a lifetime character because of this character.
Yeah, can you imagine just a few years ago in her last run in WWE, she was getting a pie in the face,
Charlotte was throwing a pie at her.
and it was like, now mind you, that was still during Vince's time, right? So, but
Of
still, it was
course.
just like it went from that to like just the performance that she's done in AEW. It's really incredible.
And she stepped up every aspect of her game. Like, there was a period where people didn't really care for Toni Storm because she didn't have the character part down. She was kind of just this rocker who was a really good wrestler. But she turned that into this and absolutely just kills it every single time. The I mean, when Toni Storm came back initially and we talked about, like, oh, she's coming back as her original character. What's the story here? Is she, like, having legitimate memory loss, or is she acting? It turns out that she was acting, and proved that she is better than anybody at telling a story right now in AEW. She is the best storyteller in AEW by far. And I love this feud from top to bottom, this story from top to bottom. And the way that it built perfectly. Every single moment that happened to get to here, there was no, like, lull period. Like, Toni Storm took the right amount of time away, gave Mariah the chance to, like, do other things and build on her being a heel. And then when she came back and built to this, it was all perfect. So I don't understand why this wasn't the main event. I feel like the things that happened in the main event could have gone on the co-main event and it still would have had the same effect. This should have been the main event, especially with having the end on the screen. Like, that's the perfect ending to the pay-per-view.
That's it. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, they even ran like somebody ran like fake credits for this
Yeah,
movie involving literally
everybody.
mostly for all former AEW Women's World Champions
Yep.
plus miscellaneous characters.
Yes. Deanna Perrazzo was playing Donna Palazzo. That was funny.
Thunder Rosa was playing. Oh, I forgot. It was a play off the weather and another flower, so it was just like
Yeah.
something corny and completely
And
different.
what was it? Anna Jay was playing Stardom Tourist. That was funny. But yeah, this was the best story that AEW has done since the Hangman Elite stuff. By far. I can't say enough about it. So if you haven't watched it, if you're watching this or listening to this and you haven't watched this match, go out of your way to watch this match. I want to watch it again. I haven't watched it again, but I probably will at some point. So yeah, uh, very clearly should have been the main event. Um, and then we are moving on to the big matches on this card. The next two are probably uh, just as good, if not. I don't think they're better than Tony Storm and Mariah, but they're amazing in their
I
own
mean,
way.
I will tell you that while I do think this Storm Mariah match was as a match of the year candidate,
Well, from a wrestling
I
standpoint,
mean, considering the cage match that's coming up, I mean, it's a close. I mean, they could be tied at this point, but we'll talk about it when we get to it.
yeah. So
But
the
yeah,
next match
yeah,
happens to be the AEW International Championship match of Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kenny Omega, and this 100% has to be the culmination of this. The stuff with Kenny and Don Callis needs to end, and this was the perfect ending for that.
yeah, and
Um,
we'll get to that as to why. But in terms of the sort of the rubber match, because Takeshita has actually beaten Kenny twice
yep,
in the past year or so, prior to Kenny having to take that long extended time off because of his
yeah,
diverticulitis.
twice in 1 week. Twice,
Yeah,
twice,
yeah, we forgot about that. It's twice in 1 week, for not just twice in a year,
yeah,
but twice in the same week. Yeah,
yeah. So obviously, we all are very aware of Kenny Omega's recent history with his medical issues and everything. He was going into a thing against Don Callis with Chris Jericho at the time, and obviously, we're not going back to that. So Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay got together and Grand Slam Australia and everything like that, and the whole point of this was for him to finally get his win back on Takeshita in AEW and finally put Don Callis behind him. And this match, they told a great story in the ring. Obviously, so the one thing that I will say that I'm kind of getting tired of is Kenny Omega overemphasizing his uh,
his diverticulitis.
diverticulitis. Yes,
Listen,
because
to briefly explain what exactly happened. Kenny basically, because of this disease, he had about 2 feet of intestine removed from his body.
yes.
So
So
therefore, his gut is issues. So yeah, and throughout this match, they been really selling the point that yeah, his punching him in the gut is his weak
yeah.
spot, basically.
So my issue with that is like, for example, in his match with Gabe Kidd, this was not brought up at all. Um, and that was his first match back. So just because they're overemphasizing it in this, it's a target. Oh, now it's hurting him more. I don't like that. I feel like wrestling, in both companies do this. People come back from an injury and they go into a story, and it's like, oh, we're going to emphasize the injury now. So you're not 100% because the injury is still a thing. They did it with Adam Cole too. And I'm not a fan of that because
So there's a something I remember from during the 80s when it was like Andre the Giant when he was doing, or no, it was way back before that. But when Andre was the Giant was the big thing in wrestling, he was doing his Japan tours as well as doing his American spots.
yep,
Um, Basically what the point is that in Japan it's not canon. So whatever happens in Japan is almost a completely separate thing than what happens in America.
yeah,
I don't agree with that these days because it's so easy to kind of integrate story and everybody knows what's going on everywhere
well,
anyway.
most people who watch AEW know about New Japan
Right.
or watch both. So it's very hard to say that nowadays.
Yeah, it would be hard. So it is hard to try to. I don't know. Maybe there was just some inherent thing that you just completely forgot about. But I'm just trying to explain. Maybe
Yeah,
it stems from traditional way they when in wrestling when it comes to Japan stuff, it's not considered like official.
yeah,
And this is more about like titles. I think
yeah,
there's some instances of like title changes of like the WWE Championship changing hands in Japan that didn't count, but that's a
Yep.
completely different
Sure.
issue there. But
So
your
this
point
whole
is, why is he not selling an injury that he is in Japan that he is selling in America, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
So as far as this match, and he barely sold it in that tag match at Grand Slam. Like, but this match had told a great story throughout because it was building that Takeshita was in control for most of the beginning because of that injury. But Kenny Omega, who just did what Kenny Omega does and just continued to fight back, and over time just got better and better, and just did what Kenny Omega does. He just put on a show and absolutely killed it. This match, I I love it. It's hard to not like any Kenny Omega match at this point, but especially with matches like the Gabe Kidd match, this match with Takeshita, the tag match at Grand Slam. Kenny Omega just goes out there and kills it no matter what because he's Kenny Omega. And that's no slight on Takeshita either. Takeshita is going to be a hell of a babyface in a couple of years. When he finally shies away from Don Callis and becomes the babyface that we know that he's going to be, he's going to be on another level at that point. And he's going to be a world champion for sure. He has all the tools, just like everybody else, like Okada. He has that it factor. And Kenny Omega gets the win. Did not win with the one wing angel in this.
Yeah, no, he did not.
He there was a point during the match, like towards the end, where they were trading moves, but he never hit the one wing angel in this match. And they were trading pins, and at one point Kenny just got a roll up, and it was enough for him to secure the victory.
Yeah,
But
that was interesting.
I think in a way it was to protect Takeshita in a loss,
Yeah,
because it's more definitive if he loses via the V trigger into the one wing angel.
right.
But when it's just a surprise roll up and Takeshita is fully aware that it was a surprise roll up, it makes it look like, oh, he caught me. And it was just one of those times where, like, I could have kicked out if I was prepared for that, and he wasn't.
Hmm.
So Takeshita still looks strong in a loss here because he had a hell of a performance also, and he's gonna hopefully move on to bigger and better things down the line.
I mean, I can definitely see a rematch maybe at Dynasty. At that point, you might see Don and Takeshita's relationship implode because Don
Yeah,
maybe at that point gets frustrated that his charge is not performing the way he wants, and and then there's a mess up, there's a screw up somewhere, and then Don blames Takeshita for losing, and then that's when Takeshita finally
yeah,
snaps and just takes him out. Because at this point, the Don Callis family is kind of like quietly disintegrated. I mean, we'll
yeah.
get to Kyle Fletcher in a moment, but it
Of
looks like
course,
Lance and Brian Cage are doing their own thing, and they're not really associating with Don Callis that
nobody
much anymore.
nobody
Um,
knows when Trent's coming back, and
right, and like
uh,
probably not even with this. Maybe not even as a heel at this point. I don't know, but I mean, more naturally, Trent would come back as a heel because of what happened with Orange.
yeah,
But we'll have to see when that happens.
yeah. But yeah, this match was great. They did a lot of great stuff in this match, and you sent me that graphic where they were both wearing attire inspired by the anime Hajime no Ippo,
Right.
I believe is the name.
Yeah.
It's a boxing anime, which I have heard of, but I've never watched. I do want to watch it eventually. I know it's on Netflix in America. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Yeah, they both of them were wearing a attire inspired by that anime.
Right, and the
And
backstory behind that is, their tights are all pretty much detailed to down to the detail of that anime. But apparently, Hajime no Ippo, it's a series that inspired Kenny to become fluent in Japanese,
yeah,
so he could read the manga past the ending of the anime.
yeah,
So that's how he learned Japanese. It's obviously a very significant thing for him to acknowledge, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's really cool. Kenny's always doing stuff like that, obviously, with like all of his moves and some of his attires are video game inspired and anime inspired. So it's really cool when he gets to incorporate that stuff. Um, and yeah, I eventually am gonna watch that because I been wanting to get into more uh animes that are not as well, like not as prominent. I would, so I eventually I will watch that. But I yeah, this match go again. It's hard to even say that there was a top three on this show. It's more like there was a top five because like there was like a 1A and a 1B and then a 2A and a 2B and then a 3. It's like crazy how good some of the matches on this show are. And that brings us to the next match, the co-main event, essentially. And it is, I would assume, to be the final showdown between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. This time inside of a steel cage.
right. Yeah,
Um, oh boy. So we've seen
yeah.
these.
This was a mess. I mean, we talked about how Toni and Mariah like killed
Yeah,
it and just left a mess. This was equally as much of a mess.
equally as messy,
Yeah,
and in a good way.
yeah,
Equally as messy in a good way. Um, Will Ospreay gets busted open very early, and just continues to, and not to the extent that Toni was bleeding, but he was bleeding for most of the match, and they were just absolutely just like everything that they were doing. They were really hitting each other, like really throwing each other into the cage. Um, like you could tell that they wanted to make this look as personal as possible. And Don Callis being on commentary for both matches, I thought it was funny that they acknowledged that he was on commentary for Kenny versus Takeshita, went backstage, and then
and he
came back
came
out
back out
again.
again. I was like, why did he have to come back out? He was already there, so
Yeah,
he might as well just stay at his desk for God's sake.
yeah. I thought that was funny. Uh, but yeah, this match, I mean,
Yeah, you mentioned
these guys,
Will bleeding, and then at one point Kyle got busted open, but not in the head. He started bleeding from the chest because
yes.
he got hit by something. I couldn't remember what.
But some prominent moments in this match. There was thumbtacks in
Yeah,
this
of
match.
course, thumbtacks. Yes.
Because we did broken glass in the Hollywood ending match, so we had to
Yeah.
do thumbtacks in this match.
Right.
Now, of course, usually when things like this happen, the person who brings out the weapon is usually the person that gets used on.
Mhm.
Um, in this case, we had a styles clash on two thumbtacks. This
Yeah.
man had thumbtacks in his fucking balls. Like, and probably in his dick as well. Like, I don't know what was going through their minds there, but Kyle Fletcher just did not care. He was gonna do whatever it took in this match, whether it was to take thumbtacks in the freaking dick or it was crazy. Um, also, a fucking Spanish fly off the top of the cage. Like, come on, guys. Like, What are we doing here?
Well, you jumped. Wow, you jumped way too ahead. I guess. Well, you were coming up to the closing moments, I guess. But yeah,
Well,
that
I'm
was a
just
spot
talking
I think
about
people will
spots during
remember.
the match. I'm not even
Yeah,
going. I'm
yeah.
not even going in order here. I'm just
I
talking
mean,
about spots
so at
during
one
the
point
match.
here, Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher's former partner in Aussie Open,
Yeah.
who's also part of the Don Callis family, broke into the cage,
Yep.
and they just start wailing on Will. And at one point, I think they hit their old finisher, the Coriolis, on
Yep.
Will.
Yep.
Will fights back and then forces Davis outside again.
Yep.
And then the referees relock the cage because this cage match, you can't win by escaping the cage. So,
Which I
which
absolutely
led to them
prefer.
climbing up to the top, and me thinking, well, that's not how this is gonna end. So what are they doing up there?
Oh,
Oh
they're
yeah,
just
did you remember the screwdriver that was conspicuously
yes.
hidden in one corner?
Yes. And Will Ospreay used that screwdriver
Eventually, I finally
eventually
get to use the screwdriver.
at the very top of the cage, which led to said Spanish fly.
Yes. So
Um,
yeah, and I think I believe the closing moment of the match was, if you remember any other spots, then I apologize if you want to backtrack
oh,
here.
I pretty
But
much mentioned the ones that I wanted to
okay,
mention, but
but
yes,
basically, we're at a point where Kyle, he's just out of gas, and
yeah,
all he is left doing is shouting at Will, "I fucking hate you.
yep,
You should die," and basically letting out all the final emotions he can possibly muster
yep,
before Will hits him with the hidden blade, and
yep,
then going for the Tiger Driver 91, which Don Callis I saw on the outside was just like, no, no, don't do it. And then when he finally hit it, he's like, oh my
yep.
god.
It,
And
it,
then the
it,
match
like,
is over.
yep,
Will Ospreay gets the pin on Kyle, and yeah, this thing was put to bed.
yep.
Kyle's just laying there completely out, and I'm guessing this is the end of this.
It
Because
has to
what else
be.
is there to say?
It,
It's
it,
almost like
it,
it's almost like saying the end without having to say anything, right?
yeah, it has to be the end of this. And Will Ospreay later on would do a very emotional promo after the match on social media, basically saying like he wants to be the guy in AEW. He wants to, and that could mean he didn't even say he wants to be world champion. He wants to be the guy. He wants to be the top guy in the company who will put on matches like that no matter what, and that he's going to give his all no matter what. And he does every single time. There is not a time that goes by where he has a match on a pay-per-view that isn't the best match on the show, or at least in the discussion for the best match on the show. The guy is a best match machine. Like, it's crazy how good Will Ospreay is, and Kyle Fletcher in turn has become because of this feud. Kyle Fletcher is going to be a top guy for years to come. He's still very young. He's only 25, I believe, which is crazy. Um, but yeah, if this match absolutely ruled, and it is so unfortunate that the match that takes place after it had to follow not only these two matches, but pretty much everything on the show, because the main event is the worst match on the show, and that's so weird.
As I said in
Um,
the beginning, this whole pay-per-view was great until the last match of the evening.
so yeah, let's get into that match. It is the World Championship match. Jon Moxley defending against Cope, or Adam Copeland, whatever you want to call him.
For the gray
Uh,
briefcase that represents the AEW World Title, so that's what that is.
yes.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about this Death Rider stuff. It's not great, but it felt like it was picking up recently, where it was starting to feel like it was a little more, better than it was recently.
Yeah.
But it was very odd that like FTR was involved in this and then they just weren't. It was very odd that Jay White just decided that because he doesn't want to, he wants to get rid of the Death Riders as much as anybody. So now him and Cope are friends. But the Guns, who are back, are not involved at all.
What happened to the Bang Bang Gang? I was looking forward to the Bang Bang Gang and the Bang Bang Lounge and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So this match was very sloppy at points. I don't know if there's just not great chemistry here, or if Adam Copeland is not as good as he used to be. I don't want to say that's what it is, but the man is over 50.
Mm-hmm.
And Jon Moxley usually doesn't have bad matches.
Yeah, he's one of the most solid workers they have in that company. So
there was a spot where he was going for the paradigm shift, and Adam Copeland did not go with him.
I like the way how you explained that. Yeah, it was a bit of a botch. John had him in the paradigm shift and just completely missed it.
Well, he did the move. Adam Copeland just didn't fall.
That doesn't work for me, brother. I got creative control, brother. That's just not going to work for me, brother.
I mean, I don't know if that's what it was. I think he just forgot to go with him. I think he just forgot. But I saw people criticizing that spot and blaming Jon Moxley. That was very clearly Adam Copeland's fault. Like very clearly.
The dude hit the move. It just the other guy didn't follow through on it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, as far as like other than that spot, I mean, I felt like the match was okay. There was just a lot of like back and forth.
It was not the match of the night. It wasn't even a match.
No,
it wasn't even a match of the past hour of this show.
It just didn't feel like a main event because nobody really wanted this match.
So I get now what you're saying. Toni and Mariah probably should have main evented because but this was this was a bit of a wet fart, to be honest. You know,
nobody.
I mean,
the
only thing that and the only thing that became interesting was first freaking Wheeler Yuta, who did not get a concerto, the only member of the group that didn't get a concerto, still running around like a little shit. He came in. At that point, both Mox and Cope were staring at him, wondering what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And then Wheeler, as expected.
To set this up, they did an angle on Dynamite when Cope had a match with Wheeler Yuta, and of course he beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of attacking him like he did to Claudio Pack and through Willow, Marina.
Yep.
Yeah. He just shook his hand and he said, that's what respect is. And he just walked away, and Wheeler Yuta looked confused. And Moxley was not pleased with this. And he basically like was berating him for it. And Wheeler just walks away from Jon Moxley. So we're going into the pay-per-view thinking that there's some kind of crack here, that Wheeler Yuta may be starting to see that Jon Moxley isn't the guy that the leader that he was to him. And of course, as you mentioned, Wheeler Yuta shows up during this match and hits the Psycho knee on Cope. Of course, this happens because the ref gets knocked down. We get shenanigans. And after this, Jay White makes an appearance and uses the briefcase, presumably containing the championship, and is trying to hit Mox, or was trying to hit Yuta, right? And hits.
He misses. He hits Cope instead.
And it hits Cope by mistake.
Yeah, by mistake.
And Mox uses this to try to capitalize and secure the victory. But out comes Christian Cage, a hooded figure.
Yeah. So I think it was, I don't remember what it was. I think it was Cope that had the pin on Mox, or the referee. No, the referee was counting.
I thought this was after the briefcase shot.
I'm at a blur as to what happened in between Jay White hitting the briefcase on Cope, and then I guess him and
Yeah,
Yuta fighting backstage, fighting to the back.
yeah. So either way,
Um,
Christian, well, for a hooded figure makes an appearance and stops a 3 count.
yeah,
And
it's fucking Christian Cage.
now, as we mentioned, this is not a hardcore match. This is not a no DQ match. Christian hits Cope in the face with the thing containing his contract.
Yeah.
So that should be a DQ right there. And it's not. And he signs the contract and enters the match, making it a 3-way. So he immediately tries to take out Cope and tries to win the match. And Cope initially kicks out the first time after Christian hit a spear. Again, shouldn't be doing that move. And then he hits an unprettier. And then Mox shows up after the unprettier and locks in the submission move that he does. The what's the name of it? The bulldog choke.
Yeah, the
And
bulldog choke, right?
while he has the bulldog choke on Christian, Christian
Yeah.
tries to put his hand.
Yeah, he put his hand on Cope's chest, so that counts as a cover.
Yeah,
right?
And almost gets the win by doing that.
Yeah.
But Moxley obviously notices
Pulls him away
and pulls
and
him
at
away.
That point,
he tries to do it again. He tries to do it again, but
right. I love the visual that Cope is just completely out, flat on his back.
Yeah.
Christian has like one arm, just like right next to Cope. You can't reach him. You can't go over the pin, and he's just passed out. And
he just passes out, and Mox retains. So all of that for nothing. So he built up.
I mean,
they
along with being one of the worst cash-ins of a contract-like thing in wrestling history.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is worse than. I mean, we talked about before. Austin.
This is worse than John Cena's cash-in.
I mean, Drew McIntyre's cash-in was bad last year. I mean, Austin Theory's cash-in on the United States title, that was also bad.
I still think John Cena has the worst cash-in of all time.
Was that when he like legitimately just cashed in on a match? And then he lost.
So he announced his cash in a week in advance. On,
Right.
I believe it was on the 1000th episode of Raw.
Yeah, that was it.
And the Big Show just causes a DQ. And that was it.
Yep.
And that's essentially what this felt like. Christian made it a triple threat, so at that point becomes a no DQ match. But he did it at like the most inopportune time and just lost.
Yeah, I mean, what a waste of a this thing that he had been carrying around. I forgot how long he's had this thing.
Like since All In.
Yeah, he's been carrying this thing around, made a big deal out of it. And then when he finally does it, it's like, oh, you screwed it up.
Yeah, and I feel like you shouldn't be doing that if you aren't going to give him the belt.
Right.
At that point, give it to somebody else instead of a 50-year-old. But
well, the only I guess bright spot in this is after the match is over, Mox is he's heading to the back. He's going back into the shadows. Out comes Prince Nana in a fucking robe confronting Moxley, and you're wondering what's going on.
And then the camera pans
upwards. I'm like, oh shit.
And Swerve is standing on a guardrail over where Mox is looking at Nana.
Right. And there's also a bunch of security guys.
A ton of security there, obviously there for this reason. For Swerve to hit a stomp off of this rail onto the floor on top of Moxley and like 15 guards.
Right.
And we get the closing shot of Swerve looking at the belt, looking at Moxley, and doing his pose, and that's the end of the show. And obviously, we're, as we mentioned earlier, Swerve won the #1 contender, so he will be challenging Moxley at Dynasty, the same show where he beat Samoa Joe last year. And I feel like he should win, but I don't think he's going to.
It's up in the air at this point because, like, what
I
are we gonna do?
feel like
We're gonna have Ricochet interfere again and continue the feud. I mean, it's kind of.
I don't know about that, but I do feel like, and we've talked about this numerous times, as long as he survives, I believe they're waiting for Darby.
Oh, as long
I
as okay. I just realized what you said. And I was like, it took me a moment to figure out. As long as he survives, I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh yeah, because Darby's climbing Mount Everest.
yes,
Um,
and that is a very common concern when climbing Mount Everest.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, at first I thought it was just gonna go back to Swerve because I'm ready for this John Moxley title reign to end because it's been kind of like
well, yeah, and
not very
I
good.
I do agree, and I've mentioned this numerous times in the past. I love John Moxley; he's one of my favorite wrestlers ever. But this is not working. I don't know what is this for? What are we doing here?
All right, you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I have to tell you, the ending of this match was significantly lower quality than I think, and you're gonna roll your eyes at me on this, than the ending of the Seth Rollins CM Punk steel cage match on Raw last night.
Well,
I thought that ending was better. I thought the ending was like the
well, of
camera,
course.
that Seth leaning against, and then you hear all this cheering. And what's going? Suddenly, someone's grabbing him and pulling him
Oh
out of the
no,
cage, and then
I
Roman
agree.
Reigns is back, and
No, I
that was like
fully
in terms of
agree.
just drama and
Yeah.
just like giving it a solid, good ass ending, way better.
Well, no,
You know?
I
Yeah,
actually agree with you
yeah,
because
yeah.
that ending, despite
Right.
my disdain for the escape rule in WWE cage matches,
I think at
uh,
that point the escape that whoever won that was it was not the really big
but
point at that point.
but it did make the most sense for them to do it the way that they did,
Yeah.
and that actually has some stakes around it as far as like Punk and Seth having problems, Roman and Seth having problems, obviously stemming from the Rumble,
Right.
and Roman and Punk having issues because of the Heyman stuff.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
No, but I'm just using that
yeah,
match
no,
last night
and no, but I
just as
understand
that
your point.
example in
I understand.
comparison to yeah.
Yes, I understand your
It
point.
was yeah.
That is significantly more appealing and people are more invested in that because of the story around it.
Yeah, but right
Nobody
yeah, nobody
nobody cares about Cope and Mox,
right.
and Swerve and Mox have not established a thing yet.
Right, exactly. Other than
So
that, Swerve wants the AEW World Title back, and
yeah,
Mox is the one who has it.
and
It's very simple.
their
Yeah,
only history is the first Continental Classic.
right.
That's their only history. They faced in the finals in that triple threat, and that's it. The not the finals, the
I think it was the Gold League Finals.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a triple threat with Jay White.
it was the league final,
Yeah, the league finals, not
the
the
league
whole thing. Yeah,
the league
I
final.
get what you're saying.
That's their only history. So I don't know how they're going to spin this into something leading up to Dynasty, but again, I still don't know what the point of the Death Riders is. I have no idea because he said from the beginning the point of the Death Riders was, or at least this is what he said, was that it was to establish that the old guard needed to go away and that the new guard needed to shut up and take the beating that they were going to get. He hasn't faced anybody young yet at all. He's only been facing old people. So, what's the point of that? So, I just want to. Again, I've said this numerous times in the past. I don't want to hate this because I like everybody in the Death Riders. Every single member. I think they're all great. But you aren't giving us anything.
Yeah,
Here.
there's no end ramp. Where's this heading? Where's the ending? What is going on?
We don't even know what the middle is.
We don't know what the middle is.
We don't. We don't know what this is. at all. There's no establishing goal here. There's no establishing arc. There's no like other than the only established arc is Darby, and Darby's not here. The only establishing arc is that Darby was distraught when they almost murdered Bryan Danielson.
Right. And
And
then they
Darby,
almost murdered him. Well, it was to write him off TV because of his climb,
yes.
but that is the
And
more natural story. But you know, it's really concerning right now. If the future direction is really based on like one guy surviving, then I don't want to get morbid here, but like anything could happen at this point. It's just
well, yeah, and
you
you
know,
can't obviously that again, that is a
yeah,
very
yeah,
obvious that is a very concerning thing that you have to think about when somebody is climbing Mount Everest. That
right,
can happen.
yeah.
Obviously, we want Darby to be fine. We want Darby to
Yeah,
come
of
back.
course. No, of course. But I'm bringing up the
But
point that if you put all your eggs in basket into one guy, it
yeah,
it's concerning.
it
there
has to.
are exceptions that has worked, and luckily, John Cena had one of the longest runs in for 2 decades. But I'm thinking almost like way back in almost like the 70s, 80s, like when I can't remember whether it was Jim Crockett Promotions that had Magnum TA as their next guy that
Yep,
was supposed to be like their version of Hulk Hogan, and then freak accident, Magnum TA, gets paralyzed in a car accident.
yep.
There he goes.
And I get that Darby is a thrill seeker.
Yeah,
We all know that. He's done big stunts like this before. Not to this level, obviously, but he's done stunts like this. He's jumped off of stuff and done like motocross jumps and skateboarding jumps, like big jumps. But this is a whole nother animal. Like he's climbing a mountain
yeah,
that has taken lives.
yeah. I just checked his Twitter. He hasn't really tweeted anything since December 2024.
Yeah.
So he's
So
MIA.
so of course, as long as everything goes to plan and he does come back, the natural order of things is for him to come back and to destroy the Death Riders single-handedly. But you can't put all your eggs in that basket if you don't know when he's coming back. Obviously, I would hope that they want him to be back by July or at least before July so they could build to All In. But again, how can you not have a plan ahead of time if this is the plan?
Anyway, so
Because again, we can't say it's Bryan Danielson.
obviously not. Nope. That's
We
gone.
we never know when he's coming back. Because I'm sure he is eventually, but again, we don't know when or if he's having neck surgery at any time. So you can't put the eggs in that basket either. So what is the plan? I want to know what that is. But in the meantime, I'm sure Mox and Swerve will make this into something that matters. Because they are both very good at that. But we'll see. Overall, this match was not for me, and that's upsetting because I like Moxley. I love Moxley. He's again all-time favorite wrestler, but just didn't feel like a main event. Uh, and Toni Storm Mariah did. So, other than this match, absolutely amazing show. It right now is my show of the year, despite this main event. But that could change at any point. Um, so your overall thoughts of the show as we reach our closing
I thought
thoughts.
it was a solid, you know, I guess 8 out of 10. Probably lost 2 points because of that main event. But I think obviously the match of the year candidates is that steel cage match and the that Hollywood ending match. I
Of
mean,
course.
um, everything else was pretty solid. I mean, he's throwing a tag team title match in there, whatever. I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, yeah, it would. It's equally conceivable that it could have been on a TV broadcast, but whatever. It wasn't like that big
Well,
a deal to me.
yeah.
But overall, it was a pretty solid show.
I mean, just to add to that, you remove this tag title match and this continental title match, and the show ends at 11 and not at 12. Just
I don't mind if they end it earlier.
yeah.
Kind of hard to watch these pay-per-views when they're 4 hours long and go past
Oh,
midnight.
I had to watch Osprey versus Fletcher twice because I fell asleep during it. And I was very happy to do that because the match was amazing. But I did fall asleep during that match because of how late it was. Because
Yeah.
I actually worked the night before. I did.
Right.
I
Right.
usually don't work Saturdays, but I did. So, yeah. So that's gonna do it for us. This again, hell of a show. AEW's been on a roll lately, but the stuff with the world title is just it is a real sour point right now, and that's unfortunate. And I hope that they turn that around soon. But AEW again is building a lot of great talent right now, and a lot of young talent that is showing out. And I look forward to what's going to happen next with everybody on this show. And again, as we say every show, you can go to our linktree / going over big time podcast, where you can see every way to listen to this and watch it, as well as our social medias for us and Tanner, who I hope will eventually be back, and the podcast itself. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Alan, your closing thoughts.
I mean, you've pretty much summed it up. So, just trying to enjoy some of the wrestling that's out there. I've got a couple of shows coming up in the next couple of months. I'm watching or / attending, so looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us, everybody. Thank you. Have a good one.